Okay, here we go. All right, guys. So we'll have to figure that one out. That's a technical issue, and I apologize for that. The computer that I'm working on here, the memory is completely used up with these classes. So what I'm going to do is start recording this on the cloud in the future, but I've never done that before, and so this is the first time. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll start with my pranams. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Budale, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devim Gaudavani Pracharane, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Yadeshatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Garidhara, Shri Vasari Gauda Bhaktavrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so guys, tonight, barring any further technical issues, we're going to be reading from chapters 18 and chapters 19 in your third canto. So if you don't mind, go ahead and pull up those two chapters, and I will give you a little preliminary background of where we are in case some of you don't know. This is an ongoing story of the incarnation of Lord Varaha. And Lord Varaha appeared to kill particularly Hiranyaksha. And so this is the story of him slaying Hiranyaksha, great demon in the universe. Now, Hiranyaksha had been all over the universe seeking battle. And he and his older brother, actually they were twins, and but Hiranyakashipu apparently was the one who was covered with Kashyapa Muni's semen first, so therefore he's considered older. However, Hiranyaksha apparently was born first. But Hiranyaksha considers Hiranyakashipu his older brother, and therefore he was on a mission to satisfy his older brother. Now later, what we'll do is we'll study the story of Hiranyakashipu, and we'll find out that by his great austerity, which we won't describe all tonight, but he literally forced Lord Brahma to come before him and give him a boon that he believed gave him immortality. But we know that even Lord Brahma is not immortal. So he tried to trick his way into immortality. And we'll find out later that that did not work out well for him. So in this situation, Hiranyaksha had been all over the universe, going to the heavenly planets, everywhere he could go. And all of the demigods had fled in fear. No one would give him battle. And he was desperate for battle. So where did he go? He went down to Varuna's abode in the bottom of the sea, right? And in that lower region where he resided, he fell at Varuna's feet. And he asked him, he said, "Oh Lord, with a smile, give me battle." So what did Varuna do? Varuna said, "No, I'm a little too old for battle. However, there is someone who could give you the battle you seek." And that would be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. So he told him that he should go immediately and find him. And then that way, he says, he could give you satisfaction in battle. And therefore, you should approach him, who even heroes like you mention with praise. Varuna continued, "On reaching him, you will be rid of your pride at once and will lie down on the field of battle, surrounded by dogs for eternal sleep." And he goes on to say, it is in order to exterminate wicked fellows like you and to show his grace to the virtuous that he assumes his various incarnations like Varaha. So in Bhagavad Gita, we know the two famous verses, right? Parichanaya saranam vinashya chaduskutam dharma samstha pranartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Krishna comes again and again and again to establish the principles of religion and to annihilate the miscreants, fellows like Hiranyaksha. So one point I might like to make is that even the doorkeepers in the spiritual world are more powerful than all the demigods, obviously, because they came and took over this material world and forced the demigods to approach and ask for the Lord's mercy upon them. So we're going to start on, which they do regularly, by the way. They find themselves chanting the Purusha Shukta prayers on the ocean of milk, petitioning the Lord to come again and again, because it seems like the demons and the demigods are in a constant state of war, that they're always fighting. And so these positions are always being disheveled, and the Lord has an opportunity to come down at that time. And when he does, he puts the demons in their place, and he liberates everybody in the process, by the way. But he also establishes and reestablishes the principles of religion, which are lost. It starts out the Bhagavad Gita explaining that he had spoken this science to the sun god, because the science as it is appears to have been lost. So let's start reading on chapter 18. If you don't mind, I'll go ahead and take 10 or 15 verses, and then we can just pass this around, and anybody who wants to read, please join in, just be ready. So the battle between Lord Boar and the demon Hiranyaksha, text 1, Maitreya continued. The proud and falsely glorious Daitya paid little heed to the words of Varuna. Oh, dear Vidura, he learned from Narada the whereabouts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and hurriedly betook himself into the depths of the ocean. He saw there the all-powerful personality of Godhead in his boar incarnation, bearing the earth upwards on the ends of his tusk and robbing him of his splendor with his reddish eyes. The demon laughed, "Oh, an amphibious beast." The demon addressed the Lord, "O best of the demigods, dressed in the form of a boar, just hear me. This earth is entrusted to us, the inhabitants of the lower regions, and you cannot take it from my presence and not be hurt by me. You rascal, you have been nourished by our enemies to kill us, and you have killed some demons by remaining invisible. O fool, your power is only mystic. So today I shall enliven my kinsman by killing you." This is getting funnier. It should be a comedy, actually, at this point. So it says, the demon continued, "When you fall dead with your skull smashed by the mace hurled by my arms, the demigods and sages who offer you oblations and sacrifice and devotional service will also automatically cease to exist like trees without roots. Although the Lord was pained by the shaft-like abusive words of the demon, he bore the pain. But seeing that the earth on the ends of his tusk was frightened, he rose out of the water just as an elephant emerges with its female companion when assailed by an alligator. The demon, who had golden hair on his head and fearful tusk, gave chase to the Lord while he was rising from the water, even as an alligator would chase an elephant. Roaring like thunder, he said, "Are you not ashamed of running away before a challenging adversary? There is nothing reproachable for shameless creatures." The Lord placed the earth within his sight on the surface of the water and transferred to her his own energy in the form of the ability to float on the water. While the enemy stood looking on, Brahma, the creator of the universe, extolled the Lord, and the other demigods rained flowers on him. The demon, who had a wealth of ornaments, bangles, and beautiful golden armor on his body, chased the Lord from behind with a great mace. The Lord tolerated his piercing ill words, but in order to reply to him, he expressed his terrible anger. Personality of Godhead said, indeed, we are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging, for you are bound up by the laws of death. Certainly, we will have stolen the charge of the inhabitants of Rasatala and have lost all shame. Although bitten by your powerful mace, I shall stay here in the water for some time, because having created enmity with a powerful enemy, I now have no place to go. You are supposed to be the commander of many foot soldiers, and now you may take prompt steps to overthrow us. Give up all your foolish talk and wipe out the cares of your kith and kin by slaying us. One may be proud, yet he does not deserve a seat in the assembly if he fails to fulfill his promised word. Sri Maitreya said, the demon, being thus challenged by the personality of Godhead, became angry and agitated, and he trembled in anger, just like a challenged cobra. Hissing indignantly, all his senses shaken by wrath, the demon quickly sprang upon the Lord and dealt him a blow with his powerful mace. So who would like to pick up the story there? Where it's getting good? Who wants a piece of this? Raise your hand. Anybody? Come on, don't be shy. Who wants to read? Let's see who we got here.
Do you want me to read for a bit?
You can read for a bit, and then let's get Nishringa on the line, and maybe Jaya Krishna. So you go first, Sri Rangavati.
Okay. The Lord, however, by moving slightly aside, dodged the violent mace blow aimed at his breast by the enemy, just as an accomplished yogi would elude death. Personality of Godhead now exhibited his anger and rushed to meet the demon, who bit his lip in rage, took up his mace again and began to repeatedly brandish it about. Then with his mace, the Lord struck the enemy on the right of his brow. But since the demon was expert in fighting, O gentle Vidura, he protected himself by a maneuver of his own mace. In this way, the demon Hiranyaksha and the Lord, the personality of Godhead, struck each other with their huge maces, each enraged and seeking his own victory. There was keen rivalry between the two combatants. Both had sustained injuries on their bodies from the blows of each other's pointed maces, and each grew more and more enraged by the smell of blood on his person. In their eagerness to win, they performed maneuvers of various kinds, and their contest looked like encounter between two forceful bulls for the sake of a cow. O descendant of Kuru, Brahma, the most independent demigod of the universe, accompanied by his followers, came to see the terrible fight for the sake of the world between the demon and the personality of Godhead, who appeared in the form of a boar. After arriving at the place of combat, Brahma, the leader of thousands of sages and transcendentalists, saw the demon, who had sustained such unprecedented power that no one could fight with him. Brahma then addressed Narayan, who was assuming the form of a boar for the first time. Lord Brahma said, "My dear Lord, this demon has proved to be a constant pinprick to the demigods and the brahmanas, the cows, and innocent persons who are spotless and always dependent upon worshipping your lotus feet. He has become a source of fear by unnecessarily harassing them. Since he has attained a boon from me, he has become a demon, always searching for a proper combatant. wandering all over the universe for his infamous purpose. Lord Brahma continued, "My dear Lord, there is no need to play with this serpentine demon, who is always very skilled in conjuring tricks and is arrogant, self-sufficient, and most wicked." Brahma continued, "My dear Lord, you are infallible. Please kill this sinful demon before the demoniac hour arrives, and he presents another formidable approach favorable to him. You can kill him by your internal potency, without a doubt. My lord, the darkest evening which covers the world is fast approaching. Since you are the soul of all souls, kindly kill him and win victory for the demigods." The auspicious period known as Abhijit, which is most opportune for victory, commenced at midday and has all but passed. Therefore, in the interest of your friends, please dispose this formidable foe quickly. This demon, luckily for us, has come of his own accord to you, his death ordained by you. Therefore, exhibiting your ways, kill him in the duel and establish the worlds in peace.
That was a short read. We've been reading some chapters that have 50 and 60 verses in them. So this is 28 verses. So that's pretty good. So whoever wants to read next, pick up at chapter 19, the killing of the demon Hiranyaksha. Sringa, would you like to read?
I can read if it's 19:1.
Yeah, just read a few. Yeah, just read a few. 10 or 12 or 15, whatever.
Yeah, okay. I had a hard time opening up my tablet, as I was wondering where exactly we are. We're at text 19:1.
No, we're at chapter 19, text 1, the killing of the demon Hiranyaksha.
Does it start off as Srimas said?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I had a problem with my tablet.
No problem.
Srimas said, after hearing the words of Brahma, the creator, which were free from all sinful purposes and as sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted his prayer with a glance laden with love. The Lord, who had appeared from the nostril of Brahma, sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy, the Hiranyaksha demon, who was stalking fearlessly before him. Struck by the demon's mace, however, the Lord's mace slipped from his hand and looked splendid as it fell down whirling. This was miraculous, for the mace was blazing wonderfully. Even though the demon had an excellent opportunity to strike his unarmed foe without obstruction, he respected the law of single combat, therefore kindling the fury of the Supreme Lord. As the Lord's mace fell to the ground and a cry of alarm arose from the witnessing crowd of God and rishis, personality of God had acknowledged the demon's love of righteousness and therefore invoked his Sundarasa disc. As the discus began to revolve in the Lord's hands, the Lord contended at the close quarters with the chief of his Vaikuntha attendants, who had been born of Hiraksha, a vile son of deity. There issued from every direction strange expressions uttered by those who were witnessing from airplanes. They had no knowledge of the Lord's reality, and they cried, "May victory attend you. Pray, dispatch him. Play no more with him." When the demon saw the personality of the Godhead, who had eyes just like lotus petals, standing in position before him, armed with the Sundarasha discus, his senses were overpowered by indignation. He began to hiss like a serpent, and he bit his lip in great resentment. The demon, who had fearful tusks, stared at the personality of Godhead as though to burn him. Springing into the air, he aimed his mace at the Lord, exclaiming at the same time, "You are slain." Shall I continue?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. O saintly Vidura, while his enemy looked on, the Lord in his boar form, the enjoyer of all sacrificial offerings, playfully knocked down the mace with his left foot, even as it came upon him with the force of a tempest. The Lord then said, "Take up your weapon and try again, eager as you are to conquer me." Challenging these words, the demon named his mace at the Lord, once more loudly roared. When the Lord saw the mace flying towards him, he stood firmly where he stood firmly where he was, caught it with the same ease as Garuda, the king of birds, would seize a serpent. His valor thus frustrated, the great demon felt humiliated, was put out of contentedness. He was reluctant to take back the mace and was offered by him by the personality of Godhead. Should I stop or continue?
You
Other
can,
many people.
yeah, you can let somebody else read if you'd like.
Okay.
Who's next in line?
I'll read Prabhuji.
Jai Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
He now took a trident which was rapacious as flaming fire, and hurled it against the Lord, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, even as one would use penance for a malevolent purpose against a holy Brahmana. Hurled by mighty demon with all his strength, the flying trident shone brightly in the sky. The personality of Godhead, however, tore it to pieces with his discus Sudarshana, which had a sharp edged rim, even as Indra cut off a wing of Garuda. The demon engaged when it when his trident was cut to pieces by the discus of personality of Godhead. He therefore advanced toward the Lord and roaring aloud, struck his hard fist against the Lord's broad chest, which bore the mark of Srivasta. Then he went out of sight. Hit in this manner by the demon, O Vidura, the Lord, who had appeared as the first boar, did not feel the least quacking in any part of his body, any more than an elephant would when struck with a wreath of flowers. The demon, however, employed many conjuring tricks against the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of Yogamaya. At the sight of this, the people were filled with alarm and thought that the dissolution of the universe was near. Fierce winds began to blow from all directions, spreading darkness occasioned by dust and hailstorms. Stones came in volley from every corner, as if thrown by machine guns. The luminaries in outer space disappeared due to the skies being overcast with masses of clouds, which were accompanied by lightning and thunder. The sky rained pus, hair, blood, stool, urine, and bones. O sinless Vidura, a mountains discharged weapons of various kinds, and naked demons, armed with a trident, appeared with their hair hanging loose. The Lord, the personal cruel and savage slogans were uttered by hosts of Raphaean yakshas and rakshasas who all either marched on foot or rode on horses, elephants, or chariots. The Lord, the personal enjoyer of all sacrifices, now discharged his beloved Sudarshana, which was capable of dispersing the magical forces displayed by the demon. At the very moment, a shudder suddenly ran through the heart of Diti, the mother of Hiranyaksha. She recalled the words of her husband Kashyapa, and blood flowed from her breast. When the demon saw his magic forces dispelled, he once again came into the presence of the personality of Godhead, Keshava, and full of rage, tried to embrace him with his arms to crush him. But to his great amazement, he found the Lord standing outside the circle of his arms. The demon now began to strike the Lord with his hard fist, but Lord Adokshaja slapped him in the root of the ear, even as Indra, the lord of the Maruts, hit the demon of Vritra. Though struck indifferently by the Lord, the conqueror of all, the demon's body began to wheel. His eyeballs bulged out of their sockets, his arms and legs broken, and their hair and his head scattered. He fell down dead, like a gigantic tree uprooted by the wind. Aja or Brahma and other arrived on the spot to see the fearfully tusked demon lying on the ground, biting his lip. The glow of his face was yet unfaded, and Brahma admiringly said, "Oh, who could meet such blessed death?" Brahma continued, "He was struck by a forefoot of the Lord, whom yogis, seeking freedom from their unreal material bodies, meditate upon in seclusion in mystic trance. While gazing on his countenance, this crest jewel of Diti's son has cast off his mortal coil." These two personal assistants of the Supreme Lord, having been cursed, have been destined to take birth in demonic families. After a few such births, they will return to their own positions.
Thank you very, very much. That's very nice. There's a few verses left, about 8 more. Who would like to have those final 8 verses?
I can read those.
Jai Rakesh Haribol.
There you go. All right, so starting at text 30.
Yes, please.
The demigods address the Lord. All obeisances unto you. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and you have assumed the form of a boar in pure goodness for the purpose of maintaining the world. Fortunately for us, this demon, who was a torment to the worlds, has been slain by you, and we too, O Lord, are now at ease in devotion to your lotus feet. Sri Maitreya continued, after thus killing the most formidable demon Hiranyaksha, the Supreme Lord Hari, the origin of the boar species, returned to his own abode, where there is always an uninterrupted festival. The Lord was praised by all the demigods, headed by Brahma. Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, I have explained to you the personality of Godhead's coming down as the first boar incarnation and killing in a great fight a demon of unprecedented prowess, as if he were just a plaything. This has been narrated by me as I heard it from my predecessor spiritual master. Sri Suta Goswami continued, my dear Brahmana, Kshatta Vidura, the great devotee of the Lord, achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the authoritative source of the sage Kausharava Maitreya, and he was very pleased. What to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Srivatsa, people may take transcendental pleasure even in hearing of the works and deeds of the devotees, whose fame is immortal. The personality of Godhead delivered the king of the elephants, who was attacked by an alligator, and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksha demon by the Lord, who appeared as the first boar in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana. This most sacred narrative confers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desire. On the field of battle, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs and organs of action. One who listens to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord, O dear Shonaka.
So that was two very short, actually, chapters, which finishes our reading on the incarnation of Lord Bor, Varaha. It's got some wonderful, wonderful points that we've been through. I think this culminated in, what was it, 9 chapters that we've read concerning Varaha's appearance. So quite wonderful, quite wonderful. Does anybody have any comment or elucidation or question or anything like that you want to start with? If you have any question, please pose the question, or if you have some comment you'd like to make, we'd love to hear it.
I liked the part where it says that just nonchalantly, you know, Lord Varaha just knocked Hiranyaksha, totally, he was totally gone, and he just gave him a little knock, and Hiranyaksha, the greatest of demons who none of the demigods could conquer in battle at all, were all frightened. He was, bloodied and winded and almost knocked senseless to death just by a little flick of Lord Varaha's, poof.
That's an excellent point to make about this story, because if you look at all of these battles that the Lord is engaged in, really it doesn't require much effort on his part. He does this as a pastime. He actually enjoys this. And the devotees enjoy this also. Kshatriyas are fighting spirit people. That's what they do. Brahmins are very peaceful. Brahmins are very studious and very austere. Lord Brahma represents that. And if we look in the heavenly planets, Indra represents the king of heaven, or the Kshatriya, warrior class. And so the Lord, when he comes, everybody's already been defeated. Everybody's already been, no one can compete. And so therefore they go to the Lord and they ask the Lord to please come. The demigods go, and a communication is sent to Lord Brahma telepathically, actually. And then in that way, Lord Brahma then, as the spiritual master of the universe, he gives that information out to the rest of the demigods. And in many cases, they're asked to go ahead and incarnate wherever the Lord's pastimes are going on. In this case, the demigods were all in the air in their vimanas, in their planes, and they were extolling the Lord, showering flowers upon Lord Bor while this was going on. But in all cases, the Lord, he's quite the dramatic actor. He really is. He knows how to create a situation that's impossible, and then there's a solution. In all cases, it's utterly brilliant. It's more genius than any writer could ever come up with stuff. No one could ever come up with stuff. And actually, the Lord's activities affects the whole universe. Whatever he does, the whole universe is affected. Everyone in it is affected. So it's very, very important to see that the Lord will fight for a minute. He'll take a few blows. In one place, it says the smell of blood. They could smell blood on their persons earlier. You heard that part. And it enraged them when they had the smell of blood. There's a thing called berserkers. They have a bloodlust, and you see that sometimes in wars and stuff, that people just go berserk. So when the smell of blood enhanced the fight, it looked for a moment that the demon might get an upper hand, right? And so the Lord allows this to happen a lot. He takes some blows from the demon. Basically, it says that when the demon threw the trident, it felt like a flower garland hitting an elephant. So the Lord is not affected. He doesn't. It's not a problem. But he's doing this as a pastime to increase, actually, religion in the universe, in the material universe, in an effort to bring everyone back home to be with him. So this is part of the Lord's mercy. Now, the demigods had gotten a little puffed up, so he was correcting that. The gatekeepers may have gotten a little puffed up, right? Because we know they had done this to Lakshmi when she left Vaikuntha, and when she came back, they had their weapons drawn, and they did not appear to be harmonious. So she predicted their downfall into the material world. And surely enough, when the innocent four Kumaras who appeared naked children before Jai and Vijay, they did the same thing. They couldn't recognize, apparently, the pure devotion of these individuals, and instead acted in such a way that did not show the mind of their master correctly. That's how it's put. They didn't understand the mind of their master for some reason. Now, this could also be part of the great play that the Lord has set in motion. Because when they asked, the demigods asked, is there anything we can do? Because when Jai and Vijay failed, they became very morose, and the whole universe appeared to be ending. They didn't know. The rest of the demigods didn't know. The four Kumaras knew, Krishna knew, or Narayan knew. In the Vaikuntha planets, they all knew. But the rest of the demigods didn't know. They thought this was the end of the universe, because pus was raining down, bones were raining out of the sky, stool was coming down, urine was coming down, the jackals were belching fire, the she-asses were braying, and chaos. They were running around in chaos. Trees were falling without even a slightest wind. They just fell. And all of the inauspicious planets like Saturn and Mars appeared at that time. Their influence became dramatically increased. And so they didn't know what to think. But after Lord Brahma explained, and he actually told Jai and Vijay, he said, fear not, for you will return to me shortly. Fear not. So he told him right up front, listen, you're going to go because you've been cursed by the Brahmin. Even though I have the power to correct that, I'm not going to do that because it's according to my will. And so when he said that, Lord Brahma actually told the demigods, he said, there's really nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do by speculating about it. The Lord will come to save us. The Lord will provide for us. So you see, this attitude of complete surrender to the Lord is required no matter what. But do demons have that attitude? What does the Bhagavad Gita have to say about that? Anybody know? In the 16th chapter, there's some very nice discourse between Krishna and Arjuna. And Krishna is very clear. And he tells Arjuna, he says that these personalities don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. They don't have cleanliness, proper behavior. They don't have truth in them. They say the world is unreal with no foundation and no God in control. They think it's produced simply for the purpose of sex desire, which, by the way, is the cause of this material creation. And it has no other cause other than lust. They're not interested in love, because love is a selfless act and lust is a selfish act. It's the opposite of love. Lust means I will take from you, I will exploit you, I will take your body, I will take your possessions, I will use you in any way that I can for my enjoyment, because that's how lust works. And so therefore we see all these criminal behaviors in the demoniac personalities. And they're lost to themselves. They don't really have intelligence. They engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. Think about it. Do we see that on our earth planet now? Men who are demons have a button they could press and literally end human life as we know it. And it would all be based on lust, pride, arrogance, violence, anger, all to try to control this material world. Are they ever able to do it? No. Do they fail? Miserably, they fail. over and over again, but they won't learn. So they're sworn to unclean acts, and they're attracted by the impermanent. They're full of literally absorbed in conceit and pride. And they believe that to gratify the senses until the end of life is the prime necessity for humanity. That's what they think we're here to do. They've created a world of consumerism. Currently, we're consuming about 5 Earth planets. We only have 1. But that's the level of greed we've come to. That's the level of lust we've come to. That's the level of pride that we've come to. And everyone is beating their chest and threatening nuclear war, and I'll kill you, and I'll take what you have. This is not appropriate. This is the attitude of the great demons. And so they secure money and power by illegal means. They perform coups, they kill to take it over, just like we saw Hiranyaksha. He went all over the whole universe seeking battle, just seeking to conquer people. And if you look at great invaders of countries, they're there to conquer the land, rape the women, enslave the children and women, and exploit the country, and take the wealth of the country, and burn down your religion. If you have a religion to God, they don't want that. They want to be supreme, so they don't want any competition. So many times the invaders will take, for an example, they'll take the temples or the churches or whatever it might be and burn them to the ground or destroy them, so they can establish their dogma as supreme. And therefore, they would have control over the world. Their anxiety is immeasurable. They're always thinking somebody's out to kill me. Could you imagine how, say, Putin, for an example, must feel every day? He knows everybody wants to kill him. He's surrounded by bodyguards at every second. His food is tested for him, everything. He has no freedom. He is a prisoner. He's a slave by this demoniac mentality and this network of hundreds and thousands of desires, which are based on lust and envy and greed and anger and all that. So this one verse, these 2 verses I love actually a lot in this 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Text 13 through 15, the demoniac persons think, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him. And my other enemies will also be killed in due course. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect. I am powerful, and I am happy. I'm the richest man, and I'm surrounded by all aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform some sacrifices, and in this way I shall rejoice. So they perform these sacrifices in name only. They have no actual interest in any selfless activity for the Lord. They go as a business deal primarily. And really, honestly, they would prefer to kill the Lord, like we see Hiranyakashipu would, rather than even engaging in negotiations with him or discussions about, how to make things amenable. No, he wants to immediately kill him. So when we go back to the 18th chapter, the demigods had encouraged the Lord to go ahead and kill this demon, quit playing with the demon before the hour of the Abhijit is over. So at the end of the Abhijit, which starts at noon, at twilight that ends. So twilight, if you study the Varata Rupa, you'll know that twilight is not a good time. This is what happened with Kashapa and Diti. They had their engagement. She took him away from his ablutions, and they went to a solitary place at the wrong time, and they broke the law, literally broke the law, and for some temporary satisfaction. And then we see that these two demons are being born. If you go back and see the story, you'll see that this was inappropriate behavior, because Lord Shiva and the ghosts and the goblins are all out at that time, and they offended the Lord in this way. So they wanted him to get it over with before this hour of Abhijit was over. They were enraged by the smell of blood, and he told him, Varaha is pretty cool, because he said, it's almost like in a fight, you see these two guys, the guy's going, come on, bring the fight, So the Lord, he actually insulted him. And he made him even madder, because he said that unless you engage me in a fight and kill me, you're not even worthy to sit in an assembly. Right? You're not even worthy, because you are not a man of your word. So come on, keep your word. Let's see what you can do, right? And the Lord was insulted, and the Lord was angry, and rightly so. So what were some of the insults? Does anybody remember some of the insults from this chapter of 18 that Hiranyaksha had hurled at Varaha? Can you name one? Name an insult. Anybody know one? All right, I'll tell you a few then. That's pretty cool. So the first thing that he did, that he said to the Lord, was that he called him an amphibious beast. This Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, he is the origin of all species. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, I'm the monarch of all species. He's the creator of 8,400,000 species. And he uses Brahma to carry it out. He gives everybody some service, and he expands again and again and again in the material universe to bring us back on track, to reestablish the Vedic principles, which are eternal, and to kill the demons, and to relieve the burden of the world of all these demoniac individuals. So the first thing he called him was an amphibious beast, which I think is pretty horrible. Then the next thing he said, he called him a rascal. Now, Prabhupada uses the word rascal, and we may think it's mild, because in the Western world, we have lots of adjectives, right, for people, and they're pretty horrible, right? So rascal covers it all. Rascal means one who has deviated from any righteous principle. And then he additionally called the Lord a fool. He called the Lord a fool. Come on. I mean, how hard? This is total blasphemy. Total blasphemy of the Lord. And then the one thing that really, I think, caused the Lord the most anger was, as the Lord had Mother Bhumi, the earth planet, on his tusk, and he was leaving the ocean. Oh, and by the way, Narada told Hiranyaksha where Varaha was. We got to give Narada a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, because Narada is the catalyst. He's out doing this all day long. He's an incarnation of God as well. But he's setting the stage for these activities and these various pastimes of the Lord to be performed so that we can be benefited. But he asked the Lord, as the Lord wouldn't confront him under the water, that he was delivering the earth to the top of the water. And he said, are you not ashamed in running away? He called him shameless. And he actually offended the Lord in that way. So this way, the anger's, it's starting to peak, and the battle is about to begin, right? But the Lord sets the earth down first, transfers his power to the earth to be able to float there, so that he can go about killing this obnoxious demon. One last thing that Hiranyaksha said to the Lord, and it says that these words were like shafts driven into the heart, literally. He told the Lord that he was going to smash his skull. You remember that part? He told the Lord that he was going to smash his skull and he would fall down dead. And then it would kill all the Brahmins and all of his servitors. And he would rid the whole universe of the Lord and any of his followers. Is there a hand? Somebody has a question? I see a hand kind of going up. So you can interrupt anytime you want. I'm just going off because, you know, this is such a wonderful story, and I just can't get enough of it, really, to be honest with you. Next week, we're going to start on the appearance of the incarnation of Lord Kapila. Woohoo! So be ready for that. That's going to start next week. But he did say to the Lord that he would smash his skull, and he actually thought that the Lord had only magic or mystical powers. He thought he might be a demigod. He didn't know what he was. He found out, didn't he? So, and as Rangavati put it, ultimately after this battle, he just casually just smacked him at the root of his ear, and the demon's eyes bulged out. With his skull cracked open, he fell down dead. However, because he'd been touched by the hoof or the foot of the Lord, his illuminescence did not dissipate. And Lord Brahma quoted, "Oh, what a glorious, blessed death that this demon has experienced," because he was killed at the hand of the Lord. So that was very, very wonderful. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Can anybody answer? The Lord, you know, he's pretty famous for using the Sudarshan chakra. Started out with a mace, right? He had a mace. The demon had a mace, right? The Lord dropped the mace. The demon was courteous. He allowed the Lord to pick it up, right? But ultimately, the Lord evoked Sudarshan chakra. Can anybody say why and what he did with the Sudarshan chakra? Do we know what the Lord did with the Sudarshan chakra?
He killed all those rakshasas and demons who were coming for them.
He did that. Yes, he did. That's a fact. And this was all mystical power, you know, with the naked demonesses, they're dancing, and, you know, you can only imagine this sight that is going on that the demigods are witnessing. And so they're getting a dose of reality, really, in the prowess of the Lord and the frailty of anyone else in light of the Lord's power. He dissipated with the Sudarshan chakra all of that magic tricks that Hiranyaksha had tried to use. What else did he do with this Sudarshan disc? So you remember the demon picked up a trident because the Lord had knocked from his hand his weapon. But he didn't want to pick it up because that's an insult. The Lord knocked it out. He was obviously winning, and the demon, it even angered him even more. So Hiranyaksha picked up a trident, and the Lord cut the trident to pieces with the Sudarshan chakra. Okay, so that's the next thing that he did with that. And he got rid of his magical power, cut the trident to pieces. And but he didn't use the weapon to kill Hiranyaksha. What weapon did he use? What weapon did he use to kill Hiranyaksha? No, Raghavati, you already said it. You already said what the weapon was. You said it earlier. What was it?
Mace, brother?
The hoof.
His hoof. Yes, his hoof. And he did it nonchalantly. He got tired. It's almost like the Lord is fighting. All of a sudden, he's like, I'm bored now. I'm tired of this exchange. And he yawns, and he just indifferently just smacked him and bulged his eyes out and killed him. So all this big show of prowess that the demon was doing and all this fun the Lord was having, he finally tired of it. And by the way, when Brahma said, dispatch him immediately before the witching hour, this demoniac hour, what did the Lord do? How did he respond to Brahma when Brahma said these prayers? Does anybody know? How did he respond to Brahma?
He laughed, and I think he accepted the prayers of Lord Brahma.
And he glanced at Lord Brahma with a loving glance. He glanced upon him lovingly while this battle was going on. This hellish scene was going on. Brahma and everybody's in anxiety. And so the Brahma asked him a question. Will you please dispatch him? Do it quickly before this hour of Abhijit is over. And the Lord looked at him lovingly and smiled, and immediately, just indifferently, killed the demon. So if Brahma asked, I guess the Lord is gonna listen. So we're in the Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So we're in this Sampradaya from Lord Brahma. There are people in the Sampradaya from Lord Shiva. We know that there's Sri Sampradaya, and there's some other Sampradayas too. But we're in the Brahma Sampradaya. And Brahma is the original creator. And the Brahma Samhita, if you read the Brahma Samhita, it is one of the most beautiful reads you'll ever read. Anganiya Shasakalin. Triyavriti manti pashanti panti kalyanti chiram jaganti ananda chinmayasad jvala vigrah. So the Lord has all these powers, all these capabilities, and he can use his glance to impregnate. He can use any sense of his body interchangeably. So it's not fantastic to think that the Lord might assume one of the creations that he's made, a boar, because it was ideally suitable for the killing of this particular demon. Later, he'll take a form of a fish or turtle, or he may be half man, half lion. God can do anything he wants to. This is his creation. We're his creation. He is the soul of all souls. He is with us right now, this instant, and will never leave and has never left and will always be with us. And he's there to answer, just like he answered Lord Brahma. And if you want to be favored by the Lord, you have to fall in line with the Lord's will. If you're going to act against the Lord's will, you're going to get treated like Hiranyaksha in the long run, because you will not be good for anybody. You will not be good for the world. We just read what demons do. It's horrible. They've been on the destruction of the world. Hiranyakashipu was, Hiranyaksha was. So after he killed the demon, the Lord's pretty good about this. Once he finishes his activity, he doesn't hang out. He's not just hanging out. Well, he is, but he's hanging out at the eternal festival that's going on in the spiritual sky. He's not going to hang around in the material world. He's got business to do. Business is over. He's going back to the party. And you're invited. Prabhupada came to invite us to that party, to that pleasure, to that satisfaction. Nothing here can compete with that. Nothing. And when we read about Vidura, what did Vidura do? Vidura, he received unlimited bliss just by hearing this narration. He was blissed out by hearing this narration, and advised us to take pleasure in these wonderful incarnations and the stories that go on around it. Take shelter of the Lord as our soul shelter. We're not dependent on the army. We're not dependent on the bank account. We're not dependent on the guns or the power or the strength that we have. We're dependent on the Lord's strength. And when we depend on the Lord's strength, he will come for you. He will take care of you. Ramchandra, we got his appearance coming up. If you read the Ramayana at the end, it says that Lord Rama, anybody who lays down their weapons, bows down before the Lord, and takes shelter of him, he will protect them. He guarantees he will protect them. We can't have any doubt that the Lord is within our heart. He's within every atom. This is his creation. We're standing on the Lord. We're digesting everything the Lord has created. Our energy comes from the Lord. Our intelligence comes from the Lord. Our bodies come from the Lord. Our looks, our physique, everything comes from Krishna. Nothing is ours. Once we decide to renounce it by giving it back to the Lord, look, renunciation doesn't mean you give up your bank account. It doesn't mean you give up your home. It doesn't mean you give up your children. It doesn't mean you give up your job. It doesn't mean you do any of that. What it means is you use it for the Lord. That's what it means. That's perfect renunciation. So a householder, Prabhupada said, could be a perfect sannyasi. So just to take the position of sannyas and not follow that complete renunciation is a great travesty. But for a householder or any ordinary person who would renounce everything and give it back to the Lord in gratitude. So if we eat food that's not offered to the Lord, we verily eat only sin. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. We know that. Yome bhaktya prayachati. He wants love. He doesn't need your food. He doesn't need your money. He doesn't need your house. You think the Lord is poverty-stricken? He needs some place to stay? No. But the devotee thinks, the Lord is on the altar. If I don't feed him, he'll be hungry. That's what the devotee thinks. The devotee thinks, oh, I have to keep this very nice for the Lord. This is the Lord's house. Your house belongs to God. And he'll take it back after you leave. But he's given you the opportunity to use it in his service and thereby achieve ultimate liberation. So in this story, it says anyone who hears this story is at once relieved of all karmic reactions, even the killing of a Brahmin, the most heinous of all sin, even the killing of a Brahmin. So these are powerful stories, powerful words. They're meant to create a spiritual revolution in the minds of men and bring about a spiritual world even here, even now, even in the material environment that we're located in. It is called the Chaitanya era. You need to look into that one. So for 10,000 years, we're going to find a golden era. Now, we don't know how it's going to be ushered in. It could be ushered in through war. It could be ushered in through peace. One time they said to Prabhupada, why hasn't World War III happened? You know, we thought it was a prediction. Prabhupada says, Krishna changed his mind. Krishna can change his mind. Can you? Yeah, you can change your mind. You're not bigger and better than Krishna. So he changed his mind. Why did he change his mind? Because the chanting of his holy name was underway. As a matter of fact, there's a story. I don't know if anybody's here has heard this story, but there was one Russian devotee who was in charge of the nuclear thing, right? Or I don't know if I'm getting the story just right, but I'm gonna kind of paraphrase the story. So there's somebody who's been put into a room and is charged with pressing the nuclear button on that evening. And it was a very alarming situation. It was, I think, the Bay of Pigs or whatever it was down in Cuba where they had that standoff. And so that very night, and I don't know if I'm telling the story correct. Somebody can correct me, but I read this story a while back, so my memory is not working necessarily perfectly. But he stayed in that room all night waiting for the call to come, and his hair turned completely white, and he aged dramatically over that night because he knew that he would be in charge in killing millions and millions of people if he received the order. But later on, I think, I know what it was. A devotee, I think it was his father that was in charge with pressing the button. And later on, he looked at the date that happened, and that was the actual date that Prabhupada arrived at Boston Harbor. I don't know if you've ever heard that story, but this is a narration of a story that was told by a devotee that Prabhupada arrived in Boston Harbor on that very day that he was supposed to be pressing a nuclear button. No, they're not going to nuke America with Prabhupada here. See what I'm saying? He came on a mission, and now this mission is carried on, and we are wanting to grow more and more and more. So we're doing these programs to satisfy the Lord. We're doing it not only for our own benefit, but for the benefit of all living entities on the planet. And we are begging for the Lord's mercy in that regard. So this story of Varaha will deliver you back home, back to Godhead. It's promised in this story that if somebody listens to this story at the time of death, they will be delivered to the kingdom of God. That's how powerful the story is. So I can't thank you all enough. Is there any questions or comments that you want to add? Okay. I see a hand up. I didn't know if anybody. Oh, Nishringa, you had a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Oh.
Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
I do have a question from today's reading, Prabhu. So there is a part where Lord Brahma gives the qualities of the demon. Like he's, I don't remember the exact words, but yeah, he says like he's skilled and he's strong and he can do all kind of tricks. And then he requests Lord to kill him, describing about the demon. And why is Lord Brahma giving the qualities of the demon here? Because Lord has arrived to kill the demon. And why is Lord Brahma still describing? First question. And the second question I have is like, why is Lord Brahma it's kind of like not instructing, but he's kind of requesting Lord to kill him. Even though he knows Lord has come for that purpose. And he describes about the time as well, the auspicious timing and all. Whenever the Lord appears, that's the auspicious timing, right, Prabhu? So how can we understand this? I don't know if I put my question right, but I'm trying to understand that.
Well, that's an excellent question. And the only answer to the question is, Brahma said, it's the Lord's will. Just like he told the four Kumaras, he said, no, I have the power to erase this curse, but I don't wish to do that. So the Lord desires to engage in battle. And who could defeat the Lord? Who can fight with the Lord? Who could do that? So that's not going on in the spiritual world. So an arrangement is made with his devotees to come here and engage in these activities, which actually are very auspicious because even the demoniac qualities being brought out by these activities make us aware of what not to be, how not to be. All right? That's what the Lord is doing. He's showing us this is wrong and this is right, right? Reestablish the principles of religion and to annihilate those persons who won't be religious, right? So ultimately he has to come to that. Now, Bhagavad Gita was spoken and on a battlefield where millions of people died. And a lot of people think this is very, very cruel, but you're going to die anyway. You're going to die today. You're going to die tomorrow. You're going to die in 100 years. You're not going to live. Everybody here is destined to die. We are waiting for the hangman's noose. I mean, it's a fact. Many of us are like ostriches. We put our head in the sand and we don't want to know about it. As a matter of fact, death in India is a glorious thing. They take you to the crematorium. There's a big parade and all this kind of stuff. There's all kind of wonderful, auspicious programs going on. But what do you do in the United States? They take the body and immediately they take it to the morgue. They embalm the thing, drain all the blood and the fluid and all, awful. and fill it up with some formaldehyde or whatever so it would look good. Why? Why do you care? You know, the body is destined to be dust, ashes, stool. That's it. So when Varuna told Hiranyaksha, he said, yes, he said, you should immediately go to the oldest person, Vishnu, and at that point you will immediately lay down and be surrounded by dogs. In other words, the body is designed to be eaten by dogs and become stool. So we are not the body. The first thing Prabhupada taught us, we are not the body. So to answer your question, if we're not the body and we're the spirit soul, and the spirit soul is the most important part of our existence, and the body is temporary, and this manifestation is built around the modes of nature that we've acquired with our various karmic reactions, and we're suffering or we're enjoying that in a material temporary sense. And we're bound to lose our family, our children, our wife, our husband. We're bound to lose our nation. We're bound to lose our country. America's been here 200, 300 years. So what? So what? You know, when Jesus was taken to Jerusalem in this big, gigantic temple with these 20-ton blocks building the thing, he said, not one stone shall remain. Not one stone shall remain. So when the annihilation comes, not one thing will remain. Everything is taken back into the body of the Lord. Not one thing will remain. So what is it you want here? What is it you want here? You want liberation from here. You want to live a life of happiness, of joy, of love, of harmony, of peace, of security. You want pleasure. But your pleasure here is based on sense gratification, trying to bring something to the tongue, the belly, the genital. It's a hard job. And are the senses ever satisfied? No. Prabhupada said the old man laying on the bed, the young girl comes in, he's still excited. What could he do? He's dying. He's diseased. He's not going to do anything with this young girl, but his mind is thinking, oh, I could actually enjoy it. His senses won't even work anymore. But he's thinking I could enjoy. This is Maya. Maya is that strong. There's no way out of Maya. No way out unless you get the mercy of the Lord or his devotees. That's it. Done deal. The rest of it, you can have your try at Ashtanga yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga. You can do that. But in the spiritual sky, the only thing going on is bhakti. You think they're worried about their karma in the spiritual sky? Think they're performing austerities up there? I doubt it. I doubt it. What they're doing is they're engaging in the eternal festival, which is a festival of love and happiness and joy beyond anything we can imagine here. They say that the beauty of just the denizens of the heaven, like the Apsaras and Gandharvas and stuff, would cause a man to immediately pass semen and die. And die. That's how beautiful they are. Just the tinklings of their ankle bell. So we don't even know. We're in a mode of passion. We're men, women. We're here in the material world, in the middle planetary system, higher planetary system, demigod. They're all in line with the Lord's will for the most part. There's lust there. There's greed there. There's some problems even with the demigods because they're contaminated by one of the three modes of material existence. That's what we're doing here. It could be tamas, rajas. It could be sattva gun. You know, it could be pure goodness. It could be, if it's pure goodness, we're going back home. So to answer your question entirely, the Lord can do anything he wants. Everything he does is for the benefit of everyone. And he's thought it all out. We may never be able to understand it correctly. Just like we can never understand the nuances of karma. We can't understand it. But the Lord keeps track of all these trillions of different things. You know, they have these supercomputers now, right? You guys probably know more about it than I do. But AI now is calculating literally trillions of equations at one time. And it may be able to calculate more than the mind of man, but it will never calculate more than the mind of God. Okay? So these records are there of every act, everything we've ever done. And so our position is to accept the will of the Lord in our life, ask for forgiveness for the things that we've done wrong, ask the Lord to engage us in his loving service, and keep us away from committing any other further nonsense. So, and then that way we can spend our life nicely, happily, with no real karmic horror, you know. I mean, you see the life of pious people. Sometimes people live without disease and then die. Very, very no pain. That happens. That's what happens in the heavenly planets. So if you see somebody in our world, in these middle planetary systems in that situation, you know they're pious. You know they're pious. Now, if you're born wealthy or whatever that is, or you're born where you have great scholastic ability and all that stuff, it's very pious. But all these things are meant to give back to the Lord. They're not meant for us to hoard them, you know, and to manipulate the Lord in a business arrangement by going to all these various demigods and asking for money, asking for this, asking for that. Don't you think the Lord knows what you need? So whatever he sends you, it's for your benefit, and you need to take it as his direct hand in your life, and you need to understand what the message is. Sometimes it can be quite difficult. Thank you for your question. So even Brahma said, hey, it doesn't do us any good to speculate about it. This is the Lord's will. It's going to happen. So he could do anything at any time. And we could be sitting there going, why are you allowing this to happen, Lord? Indra was chased from his throne. Why do you think Indra was allowed to be chased from his throne? Maybe he was puffed up. Think. Sometimes that happens to Indra because he's in paradise. He's in paradise. That is paradise. It's just like the spiritual sky, but it isn't. Right? He's got 10 million apsaras singing to him. Try to imagine the wealth. And the Ranyaksha still blew him out of the water. Guys, you all had a lot of fun. We're out of time tonight. We've had some fun with these classes here, and we're going to go to Kapila next, and that's a more philosophical discussion about what philosophy does Kapila teach. Does anybody know? What's it called? Huh? Anybody say?